She was a fixer of broken things, and I was fascinated with the way the slave ships attracted her and how she found the old pilgrimage site, and she just had so much energy and she wanted to help people. I was very impressed that she wanted to bring it worldwide so that she could help even more people, and pretty spunky, I thought. Mhm. She said one person is of more value than a world, and she really lived that way. She loved the girls the first time she saw them, when she was still only a teenager herself, and she just knew how to build relationships with them. She knew what to do when they were upset. She knew how to talk to them, what they needed in the moment. And she didn't have, even when she had them in class later, she really didn't have to say much. All she had to do was look, and they would immediately feel bad about their own behavior, and they would want to make it better, and they would look for her. So there was something very special about her. The love came through. I think they felt loved, and she's always said that it's not enough that we love them, they must know they are loved. And I think that's really what captivated me about the way she worked.
Because her theory was one person is of more value than a world. And so if you can help one person, your time is well spent.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that struck me about St. Mary Fraser, she said you have to have the attitude of a shepherd, and that really begins with shepherding one another with respect and dignity and compassion and understanding, and to really, when you're with the children, to let them know that they are the most important right in that moment, and so that they do feel loved. And I think, love is patient and kind, and it bears all things, and certainly people working with troubled children and youth, they bear a lot of things. So it's not easy, as you know, but I think the persevering and the staying with it in the difficult times, the shepherd attitude will really help a person in that. It's all about the heart, eh? I think the staff, it takes people who really love the work and know how to do it. I really learned from them in the school as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It was a real experience for me, because I didn't have much experience with regular people, and how the staff were really to kind of entertain, to be involved and kind of oversee everything, and it was quite an experience in all the ingenuity, and then even going to Maryland, and I don't know if they used to have the Bel Air Monastery, and it was kind of a way to put in time also, right? So at night, this Bel Air monster roamed around on the property and back in the bush, and would you? So this day, there was nobody around. They asked me if I would be the Bel Air monster. So you were kind of out in the bush, and you kind of hide but make yourself be seen. Well, I'm telling you, the kids came after me. I thought I was going to be killed. But I was always impressed, like in the later years, being involved, the bit that we were with the children, how caring the staff were, and how they went out of the way and used all kinds of their imagination to occupy this minute, and it was it's a big challenge.
I remember when I came 2003, and I was in the school in the class for the 12-year-olds and under. And what really impressed me was the teacher. She had such a relationship with these children, and they flocked around her like little chicks around a mother hen, and they loved her. I mean, love was really their banner. I think they even had that on the wall. And it was quite a learning, because some of the children were really very difficult and had really problems, and yet she was able to bring the good out of them. And I remember one boy that was in the class, he had his hoodie on and he covered his face completely, and you couldn't see his face, and you'd speak to him and he wouldn't answer. So she sat him next to her desk and she kept an eye on him. And so I would speak to him and he wouldn't answer. So I stayed behind and I worked with the other children till we could get a little bit of trust built. And then I had to go away for a workshop. I was away for maybe 3 weeks. When I came back, they had an event at school, and I went over, and this little boy was running around laughing and having all kinds of fun, just like a normal 8-year-old or a 9-year-old, and the hoodie was gone. And we were all fascinated. He had this sweet little face, and I thought, my goodness, what happened? This little person has emerged. And the staff were just over the hill, they were over the moon about this little boy. He just made so much progress. And he became a good chess player after too. It was interesting. But the staff, they just had the patience and the time with these children, you know. But it's so good to see something like that. Mm-hmm. Really, it was worth it. Oh.
One of the things that I always encourage the staff, you have to relate with the children. And when they come from school, don't stay in the office. Go out to hear what they have to say, because if you don't hear it now, you never will. Mm-hmm. And to them to know that you're interested in them.
I'd like to share about a 15-year-old girl. She was the first one that I worked with at Marymound, and she had been on Fraser Hall, and this girl was very troubled. She had tried to commit suicide, and the first time she came, she walked into our dining room at supper time, and she wanted to meet a sister. And so we all introduced ourselves, and she stood behind my chair, and she said, "Will you come and visit me?" And I said, "Okay." So I ended up spending a whole year while she was there working with this young girl. And at one point, she was really, really down, and there was another suicide attempt. So I spent a lot of time at the hospital with her, and that seemed to help her to feel a little better about herself. So then I said to her, "Would you like to learn how to play the piano?" They had a piano on the unit. And she said, "Oh, can you teach me?" And I said, "I'll try." So I taught her to play a couple of songs, and she was as pleased as Peach. And then she said to me, "Can I teach you how to drum and to sing the bear song?" And I said, "Oh, yes, great." And she did. And I was going to the cultural center, and I became a member of the Turtle Women group, and we were all singing and drumming, and it was like it really lifted her up, because she felt, if I can teach somebody older, you know, then I have value. So it really lifted this young girl up.
Yes.
And they also taught me about the 7 teachings, and how when I looked at those really are in sync with the Good Shepherd core values and many of our teachings. And so I became involved not only in the drumming and the smudging, but the sweat lodge and many of the functions that went down in the cultural center. I worked very closely with the cultural coordinator and the spiritual care coordinator, and we were like a team, and we did that for a few years.
Well, I think I miss like the togetherness with the staff, and with just kind of there was always so much going on. You didn't have time to think of what am I going to do with myself, and the challenge that was there, and the togetherness and the challenge.
Yeah, I miss the children and the youth, and there's so much energy there, and you always learn from these children. You know, they you have to be genuine with them, eh? They really, you know, if they listen to you, and they will share with you, and that's really to their own healing. So I guess, like with Lawrence, I miss the challenge of that particular healing aspect of Good Shepherd. Yeah. Mary Fraser had lots of people that worked with her that had a similar value system, regardless of their faith, tradition, or background, and wonderful things came out of it, and they continue today. So I think there's good people, and they will find their way to Marymound.
Well, I think when you look at it from the big picture, it was a case of you don't hurt them, you don't retain them, you be there with them, and just be quiet with them, maybe, and take them, even if it's one, and try to change the atmosphere. Oh, come with me and help me with something, or something like that, and get them away from the others. Because when we were there, we had 50 girls in our group. So you want to separate them, take her for a walk, or have her come and help you do something. And when I was in Winnipeg, Bridget, we were two very different personalities. But we complemented each other. And if I couldn't distract the girl, Bridget would come along singing a song or something. I can remember those things. And she rhymed something. And the girls loved her. And so she would take her off for a while, and then I'd go and stay with the others. And so we worked together in that context. And so and if there's a problem, we could sense there was going to be a problem. So we'd say, Bridget and I would talk about it and say, okay, you take the girls to the gym, and I'll stay back with whoever's left. So she'd go to the top of the stairs, and she'd say, well, we're going to go to the gym and have some recreation, and maybe we can roller skate. Anybody wants to come. Well, the girls, she was like a Pied Piper. And they'd all come running. So whoever was left, I might be only left with 5 or 6 girls. But these were the problems. And they didn't need an audience anymore. They wouldn't have an audience. And so we did that. They would automatically do that, and she would do it, and we could sense when it was time. And it was my first mission, July 1957. And the girls, and I said the girls that, and Bridget Hussey was there with me. We would work together for 10 years. And we might have a sister come and fill in to let us go to say our prayer, to go to lunch. We were always 2, at least, there with them. And the only lay people we had around were the school teachers, kitchen people, some of the kitchen people. So Lorraine was in the kitchen at that time too. She was a dietitian. And Jim had a gym teacher, and for the girls and different things. But other than that, there was no lay staff. They knew we weren't afraid. That was the key. You had to show you know. It's like Mary Fraser said, you got to love them, but they got to know you love them. And that's the feeling. Yeah. They know, even if they're angry and hitting the chair here and chair that, and you're right there beside them, they know you care. Yeah. And that's the value, isn't it? They know whether you're scared They know whether you really want to be here. And then you turn around and say, I love you, kid. Forget it. You don't like me at all. Yeah. You know, and say, well, if they had a hard time with a child, when the staff, because we didn't have staff, so all extra staff, and we'd say, well, if this little one is acting up, when you're on duty and you leave and go home for lunch, or you're coming on the next shift and you had had time with you yesterday, and today she's acting up, or she's not acting up, she's waiting for you to come on duty. And when you come on duty, she won't be the same girl that she was before you got there. Because she knows you're afraid of her. There's something, they know you're afraid of them, or they're afraid of you. Because you don't have patience. They can't verbalize that. But they know. They know.
We can say to a little group, we will look and see what she's doing well and give the quality of each one. You know, try to, well, or asking them, do you have quality? They don't have any quality, but we ask the other to name the quality. And that's work. Because we point the best part of themselves, and they can recognize.
Yeah.
They can recognize that they can do something well.
I think that's how our mission stays alive, actually, through looking at the needed changes and reading the signs of the times also. I think it just goes with it. And I know when I'm latecomer to Good Shepherd, but I am so proud of the congregation because these are courageous women throughout 73 countries, and they're doing so much good with the UN and with the Justice and Peace, and I'm just bowled over with what they were doing. And I think Mary Fraser had many lay partners in her day that she really listened to, and that she took their advice too, and certainly humble women.
There's a struggle today in relationship to religious practices. And I think one of the blessings that will come from the fact that the sisters have stepped back because they had to. And I think the foundation that our lay people have is very solid. It can carry it.